Let it ride.
Let it ride. Yo, Dunny, we're back in the chateau, and there's only one thing to do.
What's that?
Let it ride.
Let it ride.
Yeah.
What about in life when you don't have an option but to let it ride? Is let it ride still the salient comment to make in that moment?
I believe so. This is where the whole thing came from, right?
Well, it absolutely is. And you believe so, and I believe not. I don't think you need to name the thing that has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think in that you can create extra layers of suffering or just let it ride.
Yeah. Just let it ride.
Man, it's good to be here in the chateau, though.
It is.
I'm feeling very conflicted these days.
How so?
On one hand, fall weather in Flagstaff, man. Does it get any better?
It's gorgeous out there.
Yeah. You been able to get out at all?
Yeah. Just had a great ride yesterday. Out mountain biking up Brookbank, and it wasn't very crowded. It was
Really?
surprising.
Yeah.
So it was great. The ground was tacky. The leaves were stuck to the ground. The leaves were on the trees still. Just a variety of colors, and then just flying through it, kind of in that flow state. It was amazing.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, we got up into Inner Basin. Took the girls up there. It was on the day that it snowed, actually. So, it snowed that Monday night.
Yeah.
You know?
So the day before, like the day of, and then the night it snowed.
So we kind of watched the storm roll in, but it was like the height of the leaves in their color. It was just incredible.
Still on the trees and
Still on the trees. And then so my wife went back up a few days later and said that they're all down, you know. So we got there in that sweet spot, which is great. I think the last couple of years we've been late getting up there, so it was nice to see the leaves in
you
there.
hit it on time.
Boom. Yeah, sometimes you get lucky in life, Daniel.
# punctual Cody.
Punctual Cody, not a thing. Yeah.
Not a hashtag.
Thing. Not a hashtag.
Another thing about fall, how about them Cardinals?
Ooh, man, I am so disappointed you brought them up because now they are going to lose.
I've been waiting to bring them up, knowing that that's just going to put you in your cynical fandom.
Yeah, so they are 6-0 at the time of this recording, right? They have a game here in a few hours against the Houston Texans.
Yep.
Conventional wisdom says they should probably go 7-0 based on what the Texans are doing this year and what the Cardinals are doing, right? Oh, man, there's every Sunday I was just like, they're going to lose. This is it. Yeah, all I see is an iceberg.
Your facial expressions are killing me. You just no hope at all.
Yeah, we've done this. Well, we have not done this before in my lifetime. I saw that last time they were 6-0 or something like that was in the early 70s. Yeah, so this is all new territory. So maybe just in that newness and the uncertainty, I just default to cynicism. Yes. Well, we'll see what they could do, man. You know how I feel about that team. I love them and absolutely hate them.
Oh, man. Well, yeah. So fall weather, leaves out, Cardinals playing football, actually looking good. You have no hope that will continue.
So that's all positive, right? That's on one hand.
Yeah.
And I'm just absolutely in grief right now.
Yeah.
Right?
What'd you lose?
Well, I think we lost Ted Lasso, man.
We did lose Ted Lasso.
Season 2 is finale.
Yeah. And if you think about it, like they've only written 3 seasons. They only plan to record 3 seasons. So you're 66% of the way through with that whole joint.
Yeah, man. So we got 1 season left. That's it. That's it.
Well, solo uno más.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso.
So quickly, though, what'd you make of season 2?
I was good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I liked it. I did have a hard time with those 2 episodes that didn't progress the storyline.
Beard and Christmas?
Yeah, Beard and
those
Christmas.
Are kind of strange, yeah.
The Beard one, it was like a trip, and I'm not a fan of that. So
it was kind of like watching you in stress, though.
Yeah. Just as disoriented and discombobulated, overwhelmed by everything. Yeah, that's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Beard, I will say there are moments where I relate so much to Beard. One of the moments that most represents that is when him and Jamie have interactions all together.
Yeah.
Jamie Tart.
Yeah.
But specifically when they have interactions and it's just the 2 of them, like there were a couple of times where Jamie would come into the office and Coach Beard was the only one there.
Yeah.
And Jamie has no idea how to start that dialogue, and Coach Beard is actually perfectly comfortable allowing Jamie to feel that uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those moments.
And he's squaring his book.
Yeah, just reading his book.
Dude, that really is you. Yeah, that's spot on.
And didn't one time he tell Jamie misused a term or something? And when Jamie was leaving, he said, you should probably go read about that.
You should probably go look that up. Yeah, also you.
Coach Beard, my guy.
So true. Yeah, Beard and Dunny. One and the same.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So what'd you make of it?
Oh, man, it was good. I really enjoyed it, right? Much different than first season, right? First season felt very lighthearted. Second season, and like you're saying, they're doing those 3, right? So in this season, it seemed like they were really developing these points of conflict. And, really getting into some interesting issues for the characters. I really enjoyed. One thing for me was the influence of like mental health, right? And him and his relationship with Sharon, and just kind of seeing the aspects of how that developed over time. I thought was really interesting.
It was super humorous in the start of the season, and then so much depth as it developed between those two.
For sure. And then I was really glad to see Ted kind of finally own his experience, right? Like in talking about mental health with athletes and the press conference and that sort of thing. And one moment too for me with the psychologist was when she says the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. Thinking like, man, that is it. That is it.
You're gonna hang on to that.
Yeah. I love that, man. I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see her introduce that into Ted's life, and then when he finally used that, I guess. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
That's cool.
You kind of called me out for making a prediction that I wouldn't totally own up to, but it wasn't a huge stretch. But that was that early in the season, right? There was all that stuff going on with Jamie. And I was like, oh, Ted's got a lot of daddy issues. That makes him want to step in and compensate for Jamie on Jamie's behalf.
Totally. Yeah.
That was the prediction, and in fact, he had a lot of daddy issues.
Lost his dad to suicide, right?
Yeah.
And so, you're spot on, man. But not just his relationship with his dad. There's like several, right? Jamie and his dad, Rebecca and her dad. There's there's a common theme in the season.
Ted Lasso equals hashtag daddy issues.
Daddy issues, yeah. It's awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to the next season, see what it brings up.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sports psychology and athletes, what do we got on the docket today?
Come on.
Jamal.
Today we're going beyond flag with Shannon Thompson, a sports psychology and mental performance consultant with Hypo2, which is a sport management organization centered around a world-renowned altitude training program right here in Flagpole, Arizona. Nice.
Yeah, they're part of the reason those world-class athletes come here, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. And then they go out to their respective parts of the world and perform well.
Yeah.
Right here in Flagpole.
Yeah.
Unreal. So Shannon, a Canadian transplant, earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from True. Not false. True.
Yeah. So True.
That's the one and only. The one and only.
That's where you get that truth, dropping that truth.
Boom. Thompson Rivers University, located in Kamloops BC, Canadia.
TRU, I see.
Yeah, hashtag go Wolfpack.
They're the Wolfpack?
The Wolfpack.
Yeah. Is that where you got it from?
Got the Wolfpack? No, we spell it, we get rid of the C in our Wolfpack. It's just PAK. They spell theirs correctly.
You had no time to waste.
Yeah. Wolfpack. Yeah.
His valuable time or letters.
Yeah. No one needs a C in that word. Oh, man. So she earned this bachelor's degree, though. This was after a professional career in 3-day eventing, which is the equivalent of an equestrian triathlon. What do you know about 3-day eventing?
Oh, 3-day eventing?
Yeah.
You ask? Oh, yeah. It's it's a sport where they have dressage, cross country, and show jumping. Usually dressage is the first event that they cover over a couple of days, and then they alternate between going cross country and show jumping and horse riding. Why do you ask?
Oh, man. Well, I thought this might be the one thing I'd be able to stump you on, but Enneagram 5 over there literally knows everything about all.
Oh, yeah. It's like an equestrian Olympic event. What do you mean?
Yeah. I certainly don't know what 3-day eventing was. When I saw that, I was thinking Neil Weintraub. That's probably a 3-day event, is setting up a race and it turns into a 3-day pizza party and a bunch of empty kegs.
Yeah, that's
3-day eventing. Yeah, come on.
These equestrian Olympic sports got nothing on Neil Weintraub's race prep.
Yeah, he wrote the book on 3-day eventing for sure.
Yeah.
Man, so after earning her bachelor's degree, Shannon found herself taking a great interest in positive psychology, which, if you follow that track, you're going to find yourself in one place.
Well, if you're top of the top, if you're a high achiever, you're gonna end up at UPenn.
UPenn.
A Seligman.
That's right. #go.
Is it Quakers?
Quaker Oats. Come on, yeah, go Quakers.
So she went from the Wolf Pack to the Quakers.
To the Quakers, man. Yeah,
that's a big leap.
That's a big leap. Found herself in the Ivy League, though, just looking up to the big sky. Man.
NAU, Harvard of the West?
Harvard of the West, man. So at UPenn, though.
So doesn't that make Harvard NAU of the East?
Absolutely.
If they're looking up to the big sky?
Yeah, if anyone from Harvard finds yourself referencing yourself as a student of NAU of the East, hit us up. We'd like to talk with you a little bit. Oh, man.
So she went to UPenn, which is a real Ivy League school.
A true Ivy League school, yeah. Like you were saying, you got to be at the top of the cream of the crop here to go to UPenn, because you're going to study under who? Angela Duckworth, right?
Oh, man. So Seligman, Duckworth.
Seligman, exactly. So these big names in our field. Yeah. And so Shannon studied under Angela Duckworth, who's the famous author of the book Grit. You could also find her TED Talk online. Mm-hmm. And Shannon earned her master's degree in applied positive psychology, which is the science of human flourishing and high achievement. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they haven't taken a closer look at our lives, huh, Dan?
As case studies for what not to do.
Yeah. Here's where you go wrong. Here's where you go wrong. Here's where you go wrong. Oh, man.
Oh, man. True that.
So thankfully, but after finishing her master's degree and finishing up her time as a Quaker, Shannon came out west, brought her talents to FLG, where now she trains athletes in mental performance at Hypo2 from around the world, and then also Division I athletes from Harvard of the West. In addition to her consulting work, she conducts psychological research on the critical challenge and teaches university classes at NAU on sports science and emotional wellness. I think we might have ourselves a high achiever on our hands, huh?
You think?
I think.
Yeah, man.
A
3? 3 on the Enneagram?
Maybe we got some 3.
Maybe some 3 tendencies at least, if not just an all-out 3.
Just spending a little bit of time there at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Just real asset to our community, right?
Yeah. We really hope you enjoy this interview. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy. It's a lot of fun sitting with Shannon.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in as we go beyond flag with
Shannon Thompson.
Welcome to Beyond Flag, a Beyond the Pines production, created by, with, and for the people of Flagstaff, building connection in the town we love. We are your hosts,
Dr. Daniel J. Phillips
and Cody Bayless, also known as Dr. Chinchilla Nice Nice. Thanks for tuning in as we go beyond flag, straight from the dunny of our observatory.
All right, here we are, back in it.
In Le Chateau.
Le Chateau. And across from us, we have Shannon Thompson. I'm so excited. Yeah, nice to meet you, Shannon.
Well, nice to be here. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, thanks for swinging by the Le Chateau and risking your reputation.
Yeah.
This is a big thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. No, I admire it. It was really, when I walked in, I thought this is a nice spot.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, and so if we could jump in just with a little bit about what do you do from day to day? Because you encounter here in Flagstaff, we have a lot of elite professional athletes around town, kind of humbling the rest of us locals out on the trails and such. What is it that you do from day to day currently?
Day-to-day routine, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it often starts with going for a run, and humbling is right. My one fun thing about my morning run is I would say a couple mornings a week, it's usually with one of the athletes that I'm working with. Like I do something called run talks. So we'll either run locally around Foots Trails or the single track around Mars Hill there, or we'll even sometimes drive out to some of the higher mountain trails and go for runs up there. So she was just up Lockett Meadow and down Waterline and back down Lockett this past week with with an athlete. And so the days usually start running, and usually a couple of days a week it's with one of them. And then I'm usually late. I'm rushing to look presentable for whoever I'm supposed to be sitting down in a room with. And I usually, most days, probably have a couple meetings with athletes early in the day. And then most days we'll have one session, which are called focus sessions, which are like team sessions that are 20 to 30 minutes long. And then usually maybe another meeting with an athlete. And then I don't know, usually I haven't eaten anything. And so I'm like rushing all, try to find something to eat. And then I kind of head home and make notes or read something. So that's how a typical day goes. I do teach a couple classes at NAU. So Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings are teaching at 8 a.m. in a 9:35 class. So that would break the routine. But
yeah. Those running talks, how cool is that? And so you get to ask questions so they can be out of breath instead of you being out of breath.
Well,
right?
this is where it's humbling, right? Because I got to get them to slow down.
Yeah.
But they're great. They do. Like some of them are so good at knowing what my pace is, and they'll just go that pace. And they're so kind that they never make me feel like it is on the slow side for them, So, usually we go and, I usually just ask them kind of what's on your mind this week, or how did that race go, or how did this thing go that we were talking about last week, or we share stories of common interests and that kind of stuff. And and it's efficient. Like I do run talks mostly with NAU athletes actually, and I think they're really busy. So they've got to get their mileage in, like their morning mileage, and so having their talk with me out running is really efficient. And a lot of them feel more comfortable like out running side by side and telling me stuff too, So I know some of them just prefer it. It's more comfortable for them to share whatever's going on like that. So I do bike talks too. Every so often people, not say they don't want to slow, that's not true. They just ask for a bike talk with me on the bike and them running instead of me running. And those are actually even easier on me. So sometimes I do bike talks too.
Yeah, I was wondering what are some of the benefits of doing the bike or run talks versus maybe being in the office, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the number one benefit, well, there's a few benefits. One, some of the athletes have just flat out said they experience anxiety sitting down and kind of like talking face to face, whereas going out and moving, they don't, and they're kind of able to be who they want to be a little more out there, or be more as open as they want to be out there. So I'd say that's the number one benefit. For those guys that are so busy, I think really the time is also a benefit, feeling they can kind of multitask a little bit, like get their run done and talk to me. And then I actually know quite a lot of the high trails very well, and not all of them do. So I can also be a trail guide, and I like that, and I also have a car. Yeah. So sometimes, sometimes that's a benefit. It's just a pleasure. Especially it's just I don't know, I always feel so grateful when I'm done one of those too. And I hope they do as well, just to be able to like work out in this beautiful space and on an early morning. And it's just, you feel grateful for being able to have that time like that with them in those places. So I'd say that's a benefit too. Not, of course I feel grateful talking one-on-one as well, but it's just kind of, it's just extra cool.
Oh yeah. Do that in the mountains versus the office?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I imagine for athletes too, that's kind of their comfortable setting is to be doing something active.
Yeah, I feel like when I'm out there too, it's a little more, it's just a little lighter and back and forth too. Like I find that I'll talk more, I'll even say, hey, what's going on in my week? It's almost a little more like friendly, like not like as opposed to, okay, I'm a professional and you're here and we're going to like, focus entirely on you. I think that anecdotally, I think I get a hair lighter, which I think sometimes is good for some of them. But I can't say I've noticed. But usually once they start doing run talks, they don't want to do anything else. Yeah. So we'll have a few sit downs and then they start the run talks, and it's not, can we have a meeting this week? It's, can we go for a run this week? So that's one thing I've noticed. Yeah,
it seems like a major benefit in that way. And I would think it would also, I guess I'd wonder what it's like for you also. Do you prefer the run talk or do you prefer sitting in the office? Is there any difference there?
I definitely, if I'm going to have to work, I prefer sitting in the office.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to have to work mentally hard to try to figure something out or come up with a plan or really like kind of like understand something deeply, I know I suffer for the run talk because it's just hard. Like, you know, I think when you're working at all yourself, I think, you know, our cognition, I feel mine is a little bit diminished. But I mean, I think it's probably more about them than about me, right? And so oftentimes then I'll go away and I'll think about the conversation and I might plan more what I want to say the next time about that thing we talked about last time. But yeah, efficiency, fun, run talks are better for me too. Lightness, like maybe bonding, you could say too. Sure. But for actually thinking, sitting down is better.
So just qualitative differences in kind of the dynamic of the two. And now athletes that work with you, if you insist on an office session, they know you're going to work. You're going to put them through the mental grinder.
Well, it's more so, that I'm just noticing there's something that like, I don't know, I got to think more deeply about and I maybe, or if it's something I know I'm going to struggle to explain, like if it's, I'm going to struggle to be clear because maybe I'm only grasping my whole theory barely myself. Like if I'm going to have to work, I need to stop or sit down. And so, like the giveaway would be that this is hard for me. Like that's why we got to sit down. It's because I got to do this well. I need to not be running.
Yeah. Do you have that same experience, Dan? We try to do a lot of outdoor counseling and walk and talks and what we do as well. Do you have an experience with that?
With walking versus in office? Well, listening to you, the one thought that did come to mind was I think it would be different doing something active like running or biking because mine just consists of either walking or sitting outside somewhere. And so I think that mental exertion, I'm still capable to do that. I do think it'd be different running though. Because when you were talking about the cognitive aspect of working with a client and working on your conceptualization and what direction you want to go, like at the end of a day, right? Like, I feel cognitively depleted, I think was the word you used, right? Like, it's tiring. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So in my walk and talks, I think, I'm not running with athletes
through the mountains.
Less diversion. What about you?
Yes, I think the same kind of thing. A lot less exertion. I find also in outdoors there's more distraction potentially. So especially if we go on the foots or something like that, there's maybe someone we'll run into or that kind of thing. But I do feel the benefits for sure of being outdoors. And sitting with somebody. And
then those distractions, they can be beneficial or not. Sometimes I've worked with people with cognitive reframing or refocusing, and the benefit of seeing the mountain or looking at an animal actually provides the opportunity for them to, let go of something they're preoccupied with or dwelling on.
That's interesting.
And then sometimes you'll be in the midst of something and I'll realize a client has tried to use something to get out of the content. Interesting. So it's not like an inherently good or bad thing, right? It's just depending on the dynamic and the moment of the session. But even in that, then you could name that thing. Anyhow.
I just noticed this, or that you noticed this when I asked you this. And
so it is interesting. I think I also really related to you, Shannon, and what you said. Just an immense gratitude when you're outside. There's just a qualitative element of, wow, this is such a beautiful place. We live in, and the things that we worry about really, it puts them to scale a little bit. And so I really relate to you also feeling grateful for those times that I get outside with clients.
In switching gears for a sec, I was curious, you mentioned teaching a couple courses at NAU. Which courses do you teach and some of the content?
Right now I teach a little health sciences course called HS 200. Okay. And if any a student listens to this podcast, they're probably going to have taken that course. Like it's a prereq for a whole bunch of different majors. Okay. And I've got like 70 kids in each class. So it's like bulk students through, and, but the course is, I call it good-hearted. It's a super good-hearted course. Like it's very much an intro course. It's a course you suggest freshmen take because it just tries to develop good college habits. But it's also referred to as being an inch deep and a mile wide, in that we will cover nutrition in an hour, then we will cover exercise in an hour, then we will, so it gives them a sampling of a whole bunch of different topics. But it's good-hearted, and I think it gives them a sampling of these topics, and they can see if one catches their interest. I think a lot of times people just entering college maybe haven't picked a major yet, and it's and it's applicable. The intention of the course is to be real life applicable, and I try to make my sections as interesting and engaging and fun as possible. And I have a student athlete who has made a total 180 in school as my TA this year, and it's just the best thing. It's so cool watching him own his part and help students who were like him. And so that's just a personal side that right now makes teaching so fun this year. And then in the summer, I'm actually going to be teaching a course on emotional wellness. And so that'll be a first. So that's it right now.
Oh, that sounds very cool.
Yeah. Very valuable, probably. So I'm curious, what's it like having the students back on campus? And I don't know if you taught that same class last year, but what's that adjustment been like with them coming back from COVID?
Yeah. What's it been like? I mean, at first, I think for everybody, it was a little shocking to all be in a big space together. I remember my first class, it's pretty much to capacity. So everybody shoulder to shoulder, albeit wearing masks. I think everyone was just a little bit whoa, we haven't done this in a long time. Is it okay? So there was a bit of that. I feel like we've all pretty quickly shifted into it being normal again. I know for me, when I was teaching on Zoom, I could have my notes in front of me and no one knew. So there's been a shift back to, I gotta do this, without reading off a screen the whole class, which is something I was doing. In everything I do, that was a shift. It's funny. I found myself, so I'll have requests now though that I wouldn't have had pre-COVID. It'll be oh, it's snowing outside. Can we all come on Zoom? It's, that kind of stuff, or, snowing outside, can we all come on Zoom and stuff like that? And I don't know. I don't know. I've been asking myself a lot, what do I want to uphold regarding class and school and stuff like that? And it's funny. I found myself being no, if it's snowing, as long as it's not dangerous, let's come to class. Because I do think there's something the integrity of school, the value of school is being together. So as long as we're not going to get hurt on the way there, and we're not going to get each other sick, we presume we're all healthy. No, let's come to class. And so there's requests that I wouldn't have had, Zoom related requests, which you can understand when know, but that's one thing I've noticed.
Qualitatively, what do you think happens in that shared space in person versus not? How did you come to that conclusion as you thought it out?
Man, I don't think I thought it out that hard. I think I wish I had. I think I was just no, school's about coming together. No, and coming in, that was kind of my instinct. I just think there's value in getting up and leaving the house and being with other people and engaging together, and man, qualitatively, I think I'm more, now I know you make me think about it. I think there's an energetic benefit, of us being in a space together, again, as long as we're not going to make people sick. And, even for those who feel stressed, a bit socially anxious, or I just have a belief that it's overall healthy to have periods in your day where you need to be among others. And so I don't know. I feel it's the first time I felt old fashioned. It's no, this is where we always did it, so you're doing it again, coming to school. But I don't know. I think there's an energetic benefit to being together, and it's also, it's a little bit of a pain as a teacher to be Zooming and recording and sending links and trying to give a good lecture to somebody on Zoom at the same time you're trying to give a good lecture to somebody in real life. So I'd prefer to just fully engage with the class as well.
Yeah, for sure. It seems the pandemic really normalized the virtual meeting experience. Yeah, and I do miss like the pajama pants or run shorts and a work shirt experience for sure. But other than that, yeah, there's definitely something different about meeting with people in person.
Yes.
I'd say. And then with that, I was wondering, so emotional wellness was one of the courses that you said is coming up that you haven't taught yet?
Yeah.
Are you in the process of building the curriculum
I
for
was
it?
just thinking to myself, I should ask you guys for resources. Quite seriously.
That's Cody's territory.
Really?
Yeah.
I should, I would really like that because I have a couple resources that have been of value to me, like just my own life, and then I've used in my own work. But in order to make the course as good as it could be, I'm designing it from scratch, and I haven't started. So I actually really could use some resources.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we could come up with that for sure.
Cool.
I was going to say, if it's a course on thinking, Dan will be your guy.
Okay.
Just thinking.
Yeah, we're kind of like the two of us equate to one actual psychologist.
That's how fun is that, though, right?
That works out. Yeah, you get
That's so cool.
It's kind of disappointing for our clients because they're only getting half of it at a time.
Yeah.
But then we can consult with one another. And I can be like, oh yeah, emotions.
Yeah. So what would the left brain do with this?
Yeah,
Sorry.
but don't you find like some clients just lean so hard on wanting to think and then others are just like they get nothing from that. So how neat that they have both of you, to you guys collaborate, or you'll be like, I think you'd be better suited to my colleague.
That's a good reframe on your part.
Yeah. Very generous too. Thank you. Yeah.
No, mostly I just have to be conscientious of not colluding with someone using their rationalization and intellectualizing of something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, what a cool opportunity. So what aspects have you come across any outlines yet for the curriculum for that emotional wellness, or?
Well, this is where I get self-conscious because my background is not a PhD in psychology, but so I'll tell you where I'm leaning, and maybe you'll see I think we often tend to lean a bit towards what we're like, right? Or what kind of has helped us.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to the work of a fellow called Jeffrey Schwartz. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. He's a neuroscientist / therapist. Yeah, and he's got a work on he calls them disruptive brain messages and interpreting our emotional reactivity as in part like a overactive brain circuit essentially, and kind of noticing that and then reorienting our attention, not getting like stuck in that dialogue and argument and so on reorienting our attention on something that serves who we want to be. So I've enjoyed his stuff. And then there's another psychologist's work that I enjoyed a lot, Tara Brach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I looked at you because I was like, I bet if you're emotion focused, you will like her stuff. So I've just personally benefited so much from her work and like her 3 books and then her approach. So I'd like to draw from some of her stuff. There's another book I was given and I haven't read, and maybe I can ask for your approval or disapproval before I jump into it. But it's a book called How Emotions Are Made.
That's a jam.
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll read that. A friend of mine sent it to me and was like, you have to read this.
Yeah.
And so I was planning to draw from that.
Cool.
But please tell me, like, what else? What else should I read?
That book took me like a year to get through. Yeah, it's super dense, and she's the best, right?
Yeah,
she's the best.
Like for me, that's the most helpful book for me related to emotions because she uses so much medical research and neuroscience in it, and really, explains it so well, so in depth, like different than like a mile wide and an inch deep. It's like inch wide, mile deep. Yeah.
Numerous times.
Yeah. She goes through it all. Yeah. She's the best. That would be the person to start with, for sure. That's really an understanding emotions and how they're constructed.
Okay.
And she talks about predictive processing and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But I think from like a mindfulness-based perspective, like Tara Brach's stuff's really great.
Yeah.
Emotional Agility by Susan David would be a good one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, she's great.
Awesome.
She has a cool accent too. If you get a chance to listen to her on the podcast or something. Yeah, she's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be great stuff for the kids. Yeah, you aptly just diverted the question back to us 2 times.
Yeah, well done.
Well, do you guys ever get people talking to you and you're like, no, like, you know, it's not, you want to be reciprocal, right? Like, but actually I'm legitimately interested because I haven't started the curriculum, and I kind of just got the, like, for sure yes last week on the course. So I was like, you better start, because I actually did design a course on performance psychology, and it just didn't get a lot of interest. Like, it still exists, but it's not being offered right now at NAU. So, but it took a lot of time to design it. So I was like, man, I got to get on this if I want it for summer 20. So knowing that book took you a year, I better get going.
Yeah, get the Cliff Notes version, or it's for me it was super dense. Did it take you that same kind of?
I don't think it took me that long, but I want to go back to it. Like, I think I think it's one of those that there'll always be pieces to it, and I think it's the foundation of knowledge base moving forward about emotions.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
A reframing of emotions. So great stuff that you could spend time with in variable degrees.
So you mentioned having designed a course though in performance psychology, right? And that's kind of the thing that's in your wheelhouse. Yeah. What all went into that course? What were some of the things that you covered? Yeah.
Oh man, I'll probably remember. It was a while ago I designed it, and I haven't taught it in a few years because it hasn't attracted enough interest. We talked about motivation. So we did self-determination theory. We did goal setting. So LOCK, I guess, goal setting. We did deliberate practice. So Erickson's work on deliberate practice, optimism, Seligman's work on optimism, flow, Csikszentmihalyi stuff on flow. We did meditation, and man, I think I probably was looking at Jon Kabat-Zinn's stuff then. I haven't so much now, but just like the benefits of meditation. And we dove a little bit into meaning. So looked a little bit at like Viktor Frankl's stuff on meaning. Did some basic like mental performance strategies like visualization, some relaxation techniques, a mental performance plan. What else did we do?
I want to take this course.
Creativity. We did creativity and innovation, which I drew mostly from. This is like not even first or secondary resource, but third. But I took a lot from Adam Grant's book Originals, cool. and then Connection. So God, I can't remember what I drew from for Connection. I don't remember, but we had a little bit on connection too, like the benefits of connection, like interpersonal connection and on performance. But the course, man, it's like stagnating. It's just like on a shelf.
Dan and I are looking at each other just baffled. Like, I feel pretty ready to enroll in your course right now.
I know. I honestly think the issue is just the way that it had to be and advertised, probably not the right word in the course catalog, but you had to pretty much know it exists to find it. So it wasn't like you just Google search psychology and it would pop up. It's actually in the fitness wellness department. It's called FW 299 special. You literally have to know it exists and go looking for it. So it kills me a little bit that it's more accessible.
We're just gonna send a direct message to NAU real quick and say you're missing an opportunity here.
NAU, what are you doing? I'm the cantankerous old man. It's like kids these days.
Kids,
sign up for this phenomenal class.
Kids these days,
The content of that course sounds, all of it sounds amazing. You mentioned getting a little bit into strategies and that sort of thing. I was wondering, when you work with athletes, there's like a general sort of framework that you operate from, and then is it individualized in any other way?
Oh yeah, man, it's so funny. When I first started, I have to tell you, when I first started in this work, I was like, you have to have a system, and I never developed I never did develop a system. It was usually more so kind of athlete by athlete, kind of listening to them and then drawing from whatever kind of I had lurking around in my library. I would say if I have a method, it's very aligned with the person-centered approach. I guess you'd say more of a Carl Rogers style approach. And I feel like that was like kind of my natural style. But then when I early on in my work, I realized I needed more counseling skills because I just didn't, just from the stuff that was being brought to me. So I went to the San Diego Institute for Integrative Studies and got like some condensed, some graduate level counseling, and they operate from the person-centered approach, which I didn't even know when I went there. So I was so excited. Like, I couldn't have gone to a more suited program.
Cool.
So yeah, the way that I typically work is just like asking the athlete, like, you know, what brought you here? And we start with that, of course, and then trying to draw on their instincts and experiences and strengths, and clarifying who they want to be, and like working towards that. As far as methods, man, I'm starting to clarify that I kind of operate from trying to find both perspectives and practices for people. So like perspectives and helping them see their sport, see their circumstance from a angle that serves them as opposed to maybe doesn't. Maybe start with something like that. And then practices, I do a lot of meditation type practices. So like start with focus on the breath, but then we'll kind of go in a number of different ways. Tara Brach is probably my biggest influence when it comes to practices. I do a lot of, hey, let's recognize she's got her RAIN method. I've modified it just a little bit, but like almost everything I do is like recognize what's happening, what is real. Let's tap into through your senses, and then accept, and then ask yourself, what are you believing? And then my best little fun thing right now is, who would you be without that belief? Like, and then what would you do? You know, what would you say? That's like my go-to right now. If any of my athletes hearing this, they're like, they do that. She does it with everybody. It's like right now it's like,
but it's unique for everyone, right?
It is.
Because what they're believing or what they're feeling or what they're able to attune to what they're feeling, all that's unique.
It is unique. And oftentimes, like, when I'll suggest to do it, or how to frame it, or where we'll start, like some of them will be like, hey, let's go through the whole I've modified it. There's a RAIN, but mine is RANF, which is a terrible acronym and doesn't actually have
oh, come on, ramp.
Yeah,
that's not a lot. Teasing ramp, it's horrible. It's like,
it's not too far from a city in Canada, right?
Ramp, yeah, really. Well, so I would love a real nice, pretty acronym like RAIN, but just the steps. Like, I combined some of Jeffrey Swartz stuff with Tara Brach's stuff, and just with my population. Cool. That's why it's RAMP.
Yeah. Just own it.
I love it.
It's Ramp. South of Banff.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I should call it. Yeah. But it's funny. I intended to find a better name, but you know, when you don't want to like diminish the message, like you don't want to like warp what they're supposed to do in that step around to fit an acronym. So I was like, no. So it's recognize, accept, nurture, focus.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll change it. But now the athletes are like, yeah, I know I should use RAMP and whatever. I'm like, shoot, it's here to stay.
You got to reframe.
Like,
real fast, sell this.
Real fast. Yeah. Before, like, because they're just starting to actually try this stuff.
Oh, awesome. I say own it. I say go with RAMP and run.
Yeah, I hope they spread it. Yeah, that's amazing. RAMP.
RAMP. It's like it's almost I almost work entirely with runners. So RAN F is almost, it's just silly. It's not my proudest thing.
Yeah.
But
so you're, man, what cool experiences you have day to day now. You work with athletes, sometimes out of the office, sometimes in the office. You teach, you create these courses, you get to engage new content, you're even engaging new courses, which creates a focus on different curriculum for you. How did you end up here? Like, what led you in this direction?
Oh yeah, so this is a funny story. Look, we can make it really long, or we can make it medium, or we can make it short. I'll go for the shortish side. Feel free to ask for expansion in anything, but so I probably like you guys, I get people asking once in a while, like, hey, what was your career path? What was your academic path? Because some of them might want to do what you do, right? And I always say I'm like the best and worst person to ask, because you shouldn't try to do it the way I went, because it's not not recommended. But I did follow my, like, obviously I follow my instincts and follow my heart, and I do always advocate for that. Yeah. So how to get here? So I rode horses for a long time. I rode horses professionally. I don't know. I started when I was 5, but I was probably coaching and riding horses professionally by the time I was like 20, 21. And so did that, as a business, trying to go to the Olympics and all that. In horse sports, it doesn't, at least in Canada, I'm Canadian, it doesn't, to ride horses at a high level does not align with going to college. Like you basically would choose one or the other. And so I wanted to ride horses and didn't go to college until I was 30. Didn't start my undergrad till I was 30. And so yeah, I rode horses, was super passionate about it. Really noticed the role of the mind and in training and progress and competing, both as an athlete and then also as a coach, and just like, man, this is such an important element to sport. And then, just got near the end of my equestrian career, was for sure getting a little jaded by the horse world, and a little bit burnt out, definitely realizing the lifestyle wasn't the one I wanted forever. And just kind of I knew by that point, probably knew I was, 26 or 27, that I was going to want to work in sports psychology because I love the world of sport, in particular, like high performance sport. But I just didn't want the lifestyle of a professional equestrian athlete anymore. So I had at the time what you call like a upper level horse, which is quite rare. Their horses get injured very easily doing the things that we ask them to do at that level. So I knew what a rare thing that was to have that horse. So I wanted to see his career out, but I was like pretty much burnt out and needed out, within those last 2 years. And so when his career came to an end, let's say, I tried to do a undergrad as fast and hard as one can do one, because I was like 30 and didn't, all my friends too were like doctors and lawyers, all of them, like doctors and lawyers and anesthesiologists and
you gotta get new friends.
They're the most incredible people, like but I was like this complete anomaly, and as far as I was concerned, like not an adult. Yeah. So I was like quickly trying to become an adult. So I was like, quick, get a career.
Yeah.
And so I did an undergrad as fast and hard as I could through a small school in British Columbia called Thompson Rivers University, which allows you to use just courses from all sorts of different schools. So my undergrad is a conglomeration of online and in person from 3 different colleges and universities in British Columbia. And then I ended up reading a book by Martin Seligman in positive psych. The book was called Flourish. He's at the University of Pennsylvania and founded the Masters in Applied Positive Psychology, which you guys would know. And I read the book and I thought to myself, man, like I believe all this stuff. I believe all this stuff, like this notion of well-being is the presence of certain factors, and we can cultivate those, and that it's a little bit different than just alleviating distress, which of course we need to be doing. But I got really obsessed, to be honest, with that program, and just really saw that as the target, the Masters in Applied Positive Psychology program. So worked really hard to finish my undergrad as fast as I could and applied to that program and got in. And then got in, and it's a hybrid program. So you fly out to Philadelphia once a month or so, and you just be back wherever you live for the rest of the time. So it's like online and in person. And there's like 6 stories associated with this, but right around the same time I was trail racing and trail running racing, and I went to a race called the Trans Rockies Run, which is in Colorado. It's like a Flagstaff staple. Like there was a time when a lot of people were going to the Trans Rockies Run. And I met, this will be a community connection for you. I met Rob Krar, who you guys might know. He's a ultra running, really one of the best ultra runners there have been. He lives here in Flagstaff, and he's also Canadian, which is interesting. And he came up to my friend and I, who were racing that race, like on the 4th of 6 days, and said, "Hey, you want to come have like lunch with the Flagstaff crew?" So we were all starstruck because they're so fast and so good and all this, right? So my friend and I, we went and had lunch and nachos and all this, and we were basically adopted into the Flagstaff crew from the rest of the race. And then Rob was like, "Hey, come visit Flagstaff." So I don't know, I got obsessed with that for kind of no unknown reason, and or no known reason, and Yeah, because I think you travel a lot, and when we travel, people say, "Oh, come stay with us sometime," right? Like, come visit one day, and we rarely actually do it, And I was like buying my ticket the minute I got back to Vancouver. I was like buying my ticket to visit Flagstaff. I had a big intuitive feeling about it, and so I came and visited that winter, and then was in the process of applying for that master's program the same period of time. And then got in, and then ended up getting a job out in Philadelphia partway through the master's program. And so I drove through Flagstaff on the way to Pennsylvania.
Just right on the way there.
Yeah, I had such like A to Z to B.
It was like such an intuitive pull here, and I had friends to stay with. Like my rationale was that it was like when I drove to Pennsylvania, it was December, like it was what we call Boxing Day in Canada. It's December the 26th. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to drive across the Midwest in the winter. I'd rather drop down south and go across. So it made sense, you know?
Yeah.
So
you can justify anything, right?
Sure you can, exactly.
But this intuitive pull, you were filling a pull to come visit.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous how much I wanted to be here and how much I thought. The phrase that kept coming to me was like, those people are going to be in your life. And I was like, I don't know how that's possible because when I first met them, I think I was 11 courses into an undergrad, and like, how is that even going to be possible? I'm Canadian, you don't just move somewhere. But I had one foot out the door from the minute I met those people at Trans Rockies, and I'm from Vancouver. Vancouver's awesome. I never thought I would leave, and no, there was a definite pull, and so I came through here and was introduced to, again, kind of randomly, Sean Anthony at Hypo2, and he just he met with me, and I was just basically like, would you consider having me offer mental performance services out of Hypo2 for athletes when I graduate? And he talked to me. We thoroughly explored it. Like, he kind of reached out to his people to find out if that would be viable, if I'd survive. And I came back in the spring for a weekend and had just a bunch of meetings, and to again see if there was any likelihood of survival. And it looked like it was possible. And so after a lot of thought, he was like, yep, come. And I still always say, like, Sean is like this, I don't know, quiet hero of my life, because I never would have survived here, like, without his good reputation, his connections at NAU, people just gave me a chance because I was with Hypo2. So Hypo2 forever has my debt. I'm in debt to Hypo2, or my thanks or gratitude, So he took a big chance on me, and so I came here after I graduated from Master's in Applied Positive Psychology. But the reason that's not necessarily the path people should take is there's a lot of risk in that you're not a certified counselor, you're not a PhD, I remember having a little meltdown partway through that master's program because I was like, shoot, I'm not certified to do anything specific, so am I going to be hireable? So that's kind of the risky side of it. So that's why I call myself a mental performance consultant, because that's my qualification. And so other, obviously there's other routes to go to this field. And I just I feel really grateful to have been given as much work as I have, and to have now the experience that I have. Because it's not a likely path. Like, that's not the path you would take to do.
And at the same time, all the circuitous route that you took informs who you are and how eclectic you can be in what you're doing.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'd be really curious. That was such a phenomenal summary. So my apologies if this was like, it's just jumping way back. But at some point, you talked about falling in love with sport, and I wondered, if you started riding horses at 5, where did that transfer to, like, this is like, I'm going to become an athlete, different than someone who does this thing out of interest and hobby?
Well, gosh, where did that transition to being a serious athlete? This is a bit ridiculous, but actually I think it's more common than we might think. There was this movie when I was a kid, like that I watched when I was a kid, called International Velvet. And the movie, I would not expect you to have heard of it. Okay. I don't even know. I think maybe Blockbuster Video.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, I know, right? That was the thing. There's gonna be people listening to this who are like, "What is that?" Huh? But I think it was about horses, and I liked horses, and I think I probably saw it at 7 or 8. And it was about this girl. Actually, funnily enough, it was about a girl who came from Arizona to England, and her parents had died, and she went and basically became an Olympian at 18. And I totally caught my eye. Yeah. I was like, I want to be an Olympian. A young one too. I definitely at 7 or 8 would have seen that and was just completely captivated by it. Yeah. I do think that was a trigger, which is like a video at Blockbuster. But also my parents were high achieving people and both in academics and professionally in athletics. So I think I look back and I was in a family that did sports, and sports were valued and praised and all that. And so I was conditioned, you could say, into what one does if one is going to live in a positive, I think in mostly a positive way, but high level sport was, the movie triggered something, but then that's very much my family is doing, achieving and stuff, in particularly in sports, I guess. So it was a really early transition. It wasn't like, I practically don't remember doing it for fun, doing it because I just liked it. It was a very, very short, I love horses and I want to go to the Olympics in very, very, very young age.
And committed to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned that there was a piece in there, I think it was around you're deciding, you said people don't go to college, or you either go to college or you go for sport, something like that, right? And you're saying somewhere in there, if I heard you right, you're saying that you became aware of the role of the mind in performance or something like that.
Yeah.
For me, I was wondering, how did you do that? It doesn't seem that you stumble across that accidentally.
Oh man, I don't even know. How did I do that? I think... Well, horse sport is super technical. It's not something you might not think that on the outside. The joke is doesn't the horse do all the work? So people always say, and I always will say yes, it is a sport. What sport did you do? I did equestrian sport. Yeah, I promise it's a sport. And it is. It's extremely technical. It's in a way a little bit you might a little bit say gymnastics, and that where how your body is balanced and positioned, all your millions of little skills coming together in an instant, for fast skills to be deployed. It's super technical, and you might say, I almost hate using this word, but super mental. It's a mental. People say everything's mental, but if you're it's a sport that's dependent on, being present and relaxed and allowing your what you've trained into your body to flow automatically. So if a person is anxious or overthinking, or having some self-doubt, it just gets in the way of those skills flowing. So you quickly notice that especially at a certain level of the sport, jumping horses in particular is super intuitive, I guess you'd say. There's a such thing as needing to be able to sense how much you need to adjust the horse's stride and what line you need to be on in order for that horse's stride to meet the fence at the perfect moment. It's incredibly precise. So if you're in your head or overthinking something or stressed, you can't perceive that. And then what happens if you can't perceive that is the horse meets the fence at the wrong moment in their stride, and they chip or hit the fence, or you stop or you fall. So it's just it's a sport where you got to be so relaxed and tuned into the present. And man, you guys know, as human beings, how hard it is for us to do that. And then with horses, the consequence to not being is a fall or getting, you get hurt, or it's scary sometimes when you get that wrong. So at a certain level, when the fences get big enough and the horse is moving fast enough, you gotta have your mental game dialed in. So I think for me, I'm trying to work out my answer to your question, I think, but for me, I think it was when the fences got big enough and the speeds got fast enough that if I wasn't tuned in enough, things got bad. So yeah.
It dovetails with a question that was in my mind at that same time. I wonder how you build the connection with the horse. So some aspect of this mental game, I would assume, comes into the relationship actually to the horse and how well you both know one another. So some of the mental aspects sounds almost interconnected. I don't know if that sounds weird. Or
these are good questions. I'm making me think about this. It's good stuff to think about. Yeah, well, I think being one thing about like when you're present, like one thing that's important in equestrian sport is kind of noticing what's actually happening underneath you. And so I mean by that is noticing like what balance that horse is in, what kind of state they're in, where their level of tension is at. And so you have to be flexible and real about what's happening underneath you in order to have your jump round go well or whatever. Because horses can vary too, right? There's days when horses are super relaxed and listening to you, and there's days when they're super tense and they're actually like eyeing their surroundings and nervous about that. And sometimes if a rider isn't present and real about what's happening, they don't respond well to what's actually going on with the horse, and then their round could go badly. So I guess one element of equestrian sport is being aware of what's actually going on beneath you and how you might need to adapt in order to get the horse you're on that day. What I mean by the horse you're on that day is like kind of the state they're in around the course. And that sometimes that needs to change day to day, depending on how the horse is. And sometimes when a rider's like anxious or tense or overthinking, they don't notice really realistically what's happening underneath them, and they'll try to ride based upon some rigid plan without actually being aware of the horse they're riding and how that needs to be changed. So there's a way maybe that I think that the rider's mentality needs to interact with the horses. And it makes me think of like mountain biking or maybe like snowboarding or something, where if you like changed your setup each time you rode, it would totally change. Like you'd have to be super attuned early in that session, to be aware of how your weight's going to be thrown differently, or your center of balance and everything. You know, it's funny you bring up that analogy, and I even think like snow conditions.
I was
thinking, oh, where's he going with this? I'm like, and I jumped to snow conditions, and you're like, your setup, you're right, but it's like, you know, if it's super icy one day versus powdery another day, your approach is going to be different. But if you're, I don't know, not present and noticing that, you might, who knows, not respond well or make the right choices based on the conditions. And so it's like not quite the same as snow on the horse, but conditions change.
One thought I had too, and listened to you, Shannon, was it seemed that equestrian sport allowed for you to really develop your ability to relate to and listen to your own intuition. And that was the thing that brought you to Flagstaff. It seemed like that was the thing that led you here.
Oh man, that's cool. I you know, that could be. I bet it enhanced it. I've always been a bit of like a dreamer fairy tale kind of person though, like, you know, a belief in all that stuff. So I think yes. So I think I bet you're right. I bet you the horse sports did develop intuition. I think they also help for me like with reading energy and reading energy, maybe a little bit of body language, because horses can't talk, right? So like reading body language, I think that might have helped me in this, you know, now working with people. But I've occasionally thought to myself, like, what did horse sports do for me in working with people? But I like you you pointed that out. That could be true.
I was wondering about that. Does it seem like that was the thing that sort of brought you here?
You're right.
And I'm almost wondering too, kind of jumping forward again, is you were talking about coming to Flagstaff, right? And so you, on your very efficient trip to Pennsylvania, right? As you see Flagstaff and you're driving into the town, what is it like for you? What's your first impression?
Oh man. Well, I first flew in. So I'm trying to remember my first impression. I first flew in and it was December and it was snowy. And I just remember thinking it was cute. I remember going for a run at Buffalo Park and it was snowy and you practically couldn't see the path. and trying to do a run workout. I mean, like, you know, and it was cute. And friends here took me to the parade at like December. So I remember thinking it was just cute and community oriented. And then when did I drive in? I think I would have driven in that summer again. And it was way different. It was vibrant. Like it was so much more vibrant in the summer. And I remember really distinctly noticing the difference. I know, I hear you with the mountain, like, you know, the mountain metaphor. I think I value the mountain more now, you know, and I probably the first time I remember driving in from the north, and yeah, that trip from Pennsylvania, I would have driven in from the north. You know what though? It was middle of the night. It was middle of the night, that first drive in. I remember that. So I remember arriving at Walgreens at 1 a.m. and Rob Carr used to work at Walgreens as a pharmacist and being like, hey, surprise. So yeah, but now driving in, it's such a neat beacon, isn't it? Like from whatever direction you come, like you start to, when you're coming from anywhere, you start to see the mountain come into your sights, and it's just, it has a real comforting moment. It's a comforting moment when it appears, right? And it kind of brings you home and brings you in. So that's the effect it has on me, I'd say, reliably now. It's kind of from whatever direction. It's like, made it, you know, like, and
How did it compare? So you're from Vancouver, lived in British Columbia, like.
See where Dan's going with this?
Yeah.
It's not a real mountain.
I mean, I mean, it's a sacred space. It's a sacred space to this region and to the peoples of this region. And I would not want to minimize that at all. Yeah. But in terms of like height and magnitude and, it not being arranged. What was that like for you to hear people talk about this massive mountain and be like, I
don't know. You know, I honestly never remember feeling like unimpressed by it. Yeah. And I think the reason is it really has a beautiful profile, you know, and you kind of like can't not admire it because it's got such a beautiful profile, like an artistic sense, you know, like there's something about it also being kind of like the only mountain that's beautiful too, in a way. It's like special, but I hear you, it's true. Like when I go back to Vancouver, I think what struck me more was like after spending a bunch of time here and going back to Vancouver and say trail running in the mountains around Vancouver, I was almost like, and even the Canadian Rockies, Banff, like actually Banff, you know, we're not Ramp, Banff.
Banff, north of Ramp.
North of Ramp. I was more so like, this is serious. Like, I think I had never appreciated the extent of the mountains in British Columbia compared to it. But I've always felt like this readiness to defend Flagstaff, you know, like mountains, and I'll find myself out there, and especially like this time of year, right, when you've got the golden aspens, like there's a subtle beauty about Flagstaff, like an understatedness almost, that I just think is you gotta respect it. And I'm always like ready to. I find myself often out on those trails, like wanting to figure out how I'd explain that to somebody in Vancouver. So yeah, like British Columbia and Banff and stuff, it's like ranges and ranges and ranges and glaciers and turquoise lakes. It's like blow your mind. It's almost, and it is incredible, but I think there's a part of me that just really appreciates the subtlety of the beauty in Flagstaff in comparison, I guess. Yeah.
My question, Shannon, would just be, what elements do you think have to be present within a person to not appreciate that mountain?
There's no nuance in that. There's no ulterior motive in that
Next question.
Fair enough.
Someone that's stuck in their thinking brain, clearly.
I think if I can follow that path, I think it leads to bad spot.
No, that's where we're going.
Yeah. For Cody, Lake Mary equates to those turquoise lakes that you referenced. And, for me, Lake Mary is great. It's great. It is not a turquoise lake. Like next to
like I could have more humor about Lake Mary. I could. I could. I'll talk to people and other places, and I'll be like, people can't see about Lake Mary,
Yeah.
in quotation marks.
Yeah.
But I don't want to like it. I will more openly tease Lake Mary than the mountains.
Yeah.
You know, like more with I have that in me.
Yeah.
But even that, you know, it's funny.
Yeah.
You kind of gotta tease that. You gotta tease Lake Mary a little bit about being a lake. Like,
Thank you.
It's been a whole thing.
So I think we're 1-1 here.
yeah, you're a little bit loud. But I gotta say, it's funny. I've gone out there to take pictures, and this is a, you know, you might say this is teasing Lake Mary, but man, when there's like in, I guess, the lower Lake Mary. Man, the grasses are beautiful. Like the grasses in the lake are beautiful.
Yeah, lake.
And the range of colors is beautiful. So you know, it's
Mormon Lake too, like even though it's not a lake, right? Like I don't know if you road bike at all, but riding that road bike loop out around Mormon Lake, it really is incredible. Like all of it is really incredible.
It is, yeah.
It's me just giving I'm trying to find weak spots for Cody and give him a hard time.
I'm curious about your statement that Mormon Lake is not a lake.
Well, for me, prior to living here, I defined a lake by
A body of water.
by land that was subsumed by water. Not devoid of water. So I've come to understand that in fact the lake means many more things than that since moving here.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't know a tank was
You thought that was just an instrument for
a
war?
tank was like some manufactured man-made thing construct that held water. I actually learned that tank meant much more as well.
Also a dry piece of land.
Depending
where
on
once water
the
sat.
time. Yeah, there's water occasionally.
and then occasionally you're like, oh, it does get water in it. There's periods of time. Oh,
It really is a tank.
I can see why.
Yeah, that's a tank.
Yeah.
So true.
It was cool. It's been so great spending time with you and learning about your path here. I'd be curious, you know, Cody and I often, we actually always try to ask the people that we meet with how they define Flagstaff or relate to or connect to Flagstaff. So a really broad question for you, but yeah, how would you summarize that?
Yeah, I was thinking about, I thought about this a fair bit, and I was thinking about it again before coming here. It was just like, I would just say Flagstaff is just a good-hearted place. Like, people are kind to each other here. And I'd say personally, I've thought about this a lot too, as far as like what it's done for me. I feel like Flagstaff kind of grew me up, you know? Like, I'm supposed to be grown up. I'm 40 this year. But
Happy birthday.
Oh,
this
thank
year.
you.
Happy 40th.
Thank you. But I honestly think like Vancouver I was born there. My family's there. It's just a spectacular place. I just went back for Canadian Thanksgiving. People usually laugh at that. Like Canadian Thanksgiving. But it's a beautiful, never to underestimate Vancouver and everything. But it's a little bit glam, you know? It's a little bit, they call it Hollywood North. And I was so lucky to grow up there, and I was so lucky. I'm so lucky to be able to go back there kind of at will. But it's here, I feel like Flagstaff is really grounded in the right values and like humbleness and kindness and doing the right thing pretty much all the time and looking after each other. Even more so in this, I don't want to make this a hit on Vancouver because it's a truly an amazing place. I'm so grateful to have been there, but I feel like Flagstaff, I've had to become a better person here. Like, you know, like, and I'm so grateful for it, like for Flagstaff for making that have to be like, so yeah, that's what I'd say the impact of Flagstaff is. It's just like, it's good-hearted. It's got the right values and, yeah.
Good-hearted. Come on.
What's the debate?
What's
the debate?
Oh no, he's just trying to come at me again for lack of emotions. Good-hearted is like a new one right there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It sounds like it had a profound role in your life. Like your answer almost goes beyond just what the talent is, which is cool to hear how you've connected to it or related to it for yourself and what's meant for you in your life.
Yeah.
I think you find yourself in some really neat spaces, right? In Flagstaff even, and that are probably different than anywhere in the entire world.
Yeah, even different in terms of like scenery, but also just the choices people make. Like I there's just a hair more. It's like a hair more selfishness and ambition. like in Vancouver, and it's just like here you just don't make choices that are selfish and ambitious. You know, you make choices that serve the community and are for, you know, they're just like capital G good choices. And I feel like that's been the impact on me that Flagstaff has made. And I still butt up against some of my selfish, ambitious sides. And I'm like, whoa, okay, not here. No, like you gotta make a different choice. You gotta see this through a different lens. And Flagstaff has enabled that, I would say.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
Well, how fortunate is Flagstaff to have you in this area? It's so cool to listen to your work and you describe it. What a benefit for NAU to have you teaching there as well. Yeah. If you're a student at NAU, you need to go look for that performance class.
Good night. What are you doing over
Write
there?
a letter.
Write a letter, send it carrier pigeon direct to President Cruz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we need
totally.
this. We need this course. I know. It's a hard one. I have all sorts of respect for, I'm sure, the heads of departments who right now are like, no, Shannon, you can't have that course again. I tried again a week ago, actually. But it would be really nice for it to be available. And I do think if it was more easily found, people would sign up. But, you know.
Well, maybe in the future.
Yeah,
Yep.
come on.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much, Shannon.
having me. And it's good to meet you both, too.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to meet you guys.
Yeah. Well, take care.
Thanks, you too.
Boom. After a brief hiatus, we back. Shannon left Le Chateau.
Shannon just exited. What a phenomenal experience, huh?
No doubt. The interview was great. I also really enjoyed the times between our interview, like before and after, where we just get to kind of talk a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
yeah.
fun hanging with Shannon in the lobby of Beyond the Pines and just talking about Flagstaff and running and everything.
Yeah. Like on that intro, I pretended like I knew a lot about 3-day eventing.
Yeah.
And I just learned that in talking to her before we started the interview.
Oh, man. You fooled me.
Did I? Because you were there for all parts of that conversation.
Oh, man. Was I? When you say I was there, my body may have been in the room.
There we go.
Come on now. Yeah. But man, what a great interview. What were some of the things that stuck with you in our time with Shannon?
I've got to tell you straight up. I bullet pointed some areas of interest, like her work with Angela Duckworth, the work that she does on the critical challenge moment for athletes, even what she does with the ramp. Which I'm sorry, Shannon, if you want us not to use that, because
it's getting used in our own clinical work going forward.
You're going to rebrand it somehow. Let us know if you do the rebranding and we'll update. But man, I would have loved to learn more about it, even about her path. I would have loved to learn. So I felt like there was so much more, but it was engaging to sit with her because she did such a good job of communicating about various aspects of her work or various aspects of her personal experience. I would say the thing that stuck out to me was actually, and this is cringy to have to admit that it was a point you made.
Go on.
Talk more about me.
Yeah, keep going. Stop right there.
No, it was really cool when you put together and kind of asked Shannon about how perhaps learning how to be focused and dialed and paying attention to you and the course and the horse in sport helped her to follow a path that was somewhat circuitous to this professional route that she's now in, and the professional role that she's now in. And I thought, that's real evidence of connection to self, right? Is you have to learn how to pay attention to what the right decision is moment to moment. And then even in the bigger picture, looking at different periods and seasons of your life, what's the direction you're going and what feels like the right direction to go. So a real good example of paying attention to that intuition that she likely honed or talked about potentially honing in her sport.
Yeah. through your training and that sort of thing. Yeah, it seemed that she mentioned intuition a few times in the interview, and it just kind of stuck out. I was thinking like, this is something that, seems natural for her.
Yeah.
And then by no accident, she found herself in Flagstaff. And it was fun for me to listen to her talk about like how it was both the thing to do and not to do, I guess, like there's this conventional approach that people are supposed to take. And then there's like kind of the follow your intuition.
Yeah. What did you make of that? Like that there's a way that you're supposed to end up where she's at.
Yeah. Well, that's probably just some sort of norm, right?
Yeah.
That's constructed somewhere and kind of been created as this is what you do as you get older. You go in degree, or job and land there in a career and then stay there for your life sort of thing. And so she kind of bucked against that, I thought, by just sort of like following her intuition, listening to her talk about going from Vancouver to Philadelphia, was it, by way of Flagstaff? It's like, what did you say, A to B? Or,
A to Z, then to B?
Then to B, It's so true. It was like, but it seemed like there was this natural, something that felt really compelling within her, this natural pull to Flagstaff also that she just kind of had to do. And then I was thinking, another point I had in an interview was like, you find yourself in these really cool spaces, like Flagstaff's good-hearted, and she was talking about values, and I was thinking like, those are all really relevant. And that intuition led her to Hypo2, it led her to NAU to be able to teach, to work with elite athletes and Division I athletes and that sort of thing. And so she finds herself there, not by accident, by her own, following her own intuition. These really neat places that are unique.
And it was through effort, right? Like, so what she was putting out into the world came back to her.
Yeah.
So she ended up in good places because of what also she was engaging and putting herself out into.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think, like, I don't know, just sitting there with her, she just seems like she puts out good stuff, right? Like sitting with her is such a positive vibe and a great energy and fun person to be around. So I think naturally, look at what she's producing in the world. Yeah, she's creating.
For sure. So she ends up in this place that she defines as having a good heart, which you put into contrast with me as a person.
With a heart. Yeah.
In the very literal sense.
Yeah, in the very literal sense. Yeah. So I think in that line, when Shannon describes Flagstaff as having a good heart, it's good-hearted. I think like, she's contributing to that good heart. Which, was that your middle finger? Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. We had some fun in that interview too. I feel like we got to razz each other a little bit.
Yeah. You're coming hard there. Coming hard at my lack of emotions.
Your disdain for Lake Mary.
Yeah. Well, she sided with me on that one.
Yeah.
I tried to introduce the comparison of like a mountain range to the couple of peaks here in Flag, and she sided with you, man.
Yeah. Yes and no. She was very diplomatic.
She was very diplomatic. Yeah. So,
kudos to her for that.
Yeah. And great energy, right? Such great energy.
Absolutely. That was a ton of fun. Yeah. And so I think for people, if they ever want to find Shannon, you can find her at the Hypo2 website.
Yeah. Well, why don't you take us out by shouting us out?
No doubt. Always find us on those interwebs, beyondflag.com, flag spelled
FLG.
And then same with the Insta-G and the Twitter feed. Man, we are just less than active on those joints, huh? But we're there.
Well, it depends on how you define active socially, because I think we're very active just by being enrolled.
That's a good point. Yeah, we are extremely active just by the virtue of showing up and having an account on Instagram. You can find us beyond_flag and at the Twitter feeds beyond_flag as well.
Yeah. Well, take care.
In the meantime, lovies.